I would have assumed they've fixed most of the problems by now, but now it seems that something else has come up and they've had another fire. It's been a rough year for sure.
We have no idea what the cause of the fire is.
It's happened again. A downtown high-rise hit by fire for the second time in less than a year. Residents of 650 Parliament can't seem to catch a break. A fire last August forced them out of the building and into temporary homes. And then early today, fire crews were called to the high-rise once again. Ali Chiasson joins us live from near the building at Wellesley and Parliament. And Ali, despite this latest fire, the timeline for these people getting back into their homes is expected to remain the same.
That's right, Chris. Most officials say that this shouldn't affect the reoccupancy date. I mean, there is still a fire investigation underway, and part of that will be damage assessment. This fire was contained to the one unit on the 15th floor where there is extensive smoke damage. All of this is making for a very uneasy sense of déjà vu for the people who once called this place home.
It reminds me of when the fire happened August 21st last year.
650 Parliament.
Same thing happening again, pretty much.
Only this time, the apartment building is vacant. It's 1,500 residents who were displaced from last year's electrical fire watch the smoke billow from a distance.
We received this call around 8 o'clock this morning. The electrical contractors noticed smoke on the 15th floor, pulled the alarm between them and security, ensured everybody was out of the building when Toronto Fire arrived on scene. The actual fire unit was heavily damaged. There was a lot of fire load in that unit. Actually burnt the door off of the unit.
In the last 10 months, residents have since found other places to live, even if that means moving in with family or friends. For those hoping to return to 650 Parliament anytime soon, today was
not great news to wake up to.
I'm told that this fire shouldn't represent any kind of a setback, and that actually we're getting much, much closer to the day when people can move back in. And I'm optimistic that's going to happen sooner than later.
Danny Roth, the spokesperson for the property management company, Wellesley Parliament Square, spoke to us this morning over the phone.
This building will only be reoccupied when it is demonstrated that it is safe for habitation.
That reoccupancy date has been pushed back by months at a time as the repair work continues. Roth says a class action lawsuit filed against the property manager on behalf of the residents could drag this out because it's preventing workers from going inside the units and touching their belongings.
We have evidence and affidavits from our senior construction teams that say that's going to add multiple months of delay to the eventual reoccupancy.
Shankar Thuranav actually moved out a week before last year's fire. He now lives elsewhere in the neighborhood, close enough to hear the sirens here again.
What did you think?
Oh, I don't want to live again in this building.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back.
I spoke to some other residents today who tell me they would like to get inside their units to see what they can salvage from their old apartments. Unfortunately, for one resident on the 15th floor, there won't be much that they can save. Other people told me even if they could move back next month, they're not sure they'd want to anymore. I'll send it back to you.
Ali, thank you for this tonight. Next, a new video that's raising questions tonight about a fatal crash in Brampton. It shows the truck pushing the car for nearly a kilometer. The car's driver stuck inside. That driver was an 88-year-old man from Brampton. He was killed in the crash. And as Greg Ross tells us, Peel police are trying to piece together exactly what happened.
It was a shocking sight for drivers on Highway 50 Tuesday morning. A dump truck plowing forward with the car on its front bumper.
Because I attend to more than 1,000 accidents, but I never seen something like this.
Sonny Subra is a tow operator for large trucks. He posted the video online after it was captured on a dash cam belonging to one of his colleagues. According to police, the driver of the car was heading southbound on Highway 50. He attempted to turn left here onto Langstaff Road, and police say that's when he was hit by the dump truck that was traveling northbound on Highway 50. Police say the dump truck traveled another 750 meters after the collision. Subra says even with all of the weight the dump truck was carrying, the driver should have been able to stop long before that. And he would know as the driver of a 30-ton tow truck.
You can stop it within 100 meters. It's easy. But it won't take 750 meters to stop a fully loaded dump truck.
Did it seem like he was slowing down in the video?
He's maybe step off the accelerator and then go in the same speed as he come in.
But there's no brake.
I don't see any braking. I don't see any hard braking on the dump truck. And only I see a smoke from the car tires. That's what smoke, and then a lot of noise from the car.
Peel police are investigating this collision in two parts. First and foremost, what caused the accident? Secondly, why did the driver of the tow truck, a 65-year-old Brampton man, continue driving?
So it's hard to say is what was going on in that driver's mind after the accident that would cause them not to stop right away. And obviously through their interview and their investigation, they would look into that to see if there is any wrongdoing there.
At this point, police have not laid any charges. Greg Ross, CBC News, Brampton.
A woman is dead, another in serious condition after they were hit by a car today in the city's northwest end. It happened around noon. The women, both in their 60s, were crossing Finch near Jane when they were struck. The driver of the vehicle that hit them remained at the scene.
It appears that the two women were crossing from the north side here towards the south side of the roadway. I guess for all intents and purposes, it is an uncontrolled section of the roadway, and but that's definitely one of the pieces that we're hoping to get information from witnesses, just to piece it together.
Police are asking for witnesses or anyone with dash cam video to contact them. Politicians came out swinging today over Bombardier's job cuts in Thunder Bay.
I've seen hide nor hair of the federal government. All of a sudden, today they come out with a comment. They want to play politics.
Now, Bombardier has said the layoffs are necessary because contracts for Metrolinx and TTC vehicles will be wrapped up this year. Meanwhile, workers are desperately hoping their jobs can still be saved. But ahead of a TTC board meeting today, the chair says they will be looking at another order as early as next year. Kelda Yoon is live at King and University for us tonight. And Kelda, could this save jobs?
Well, Chris, firstly, it will depend on funding from both the provincial and federal government. And then it's whether they will decide to go with Bombardier once again. Now, back in 2009, the TTC ordered 204 streetcars, and all along the way, there have been delays and other problems.
Outside the Thunder Bay plant this morning, workers still hopeful.
The management seemed pretty positive. They're still working hard to try and get more work for us. I hope that, they can hang on to as many people as long as they can.
But as it stands, in November, the 1,100 employee plant will be cut in half. This comes as the TTC awaits the delivery of 38 outstanding streetcars. TTC Chair Jay Robinson says the board is confident the vehicles will arrive as scheduled by the end of this year.
We've certainly had our challenges with this company in the past, but I will say that in the recent months, things have improved dramatically.
But prior to that, there were major issues, including repeated delays, resulting in a $50 million lawsuit in 2015, which was later settled. Then in 2018, 67 streetcars delivered by Bombardier needed to be sent back to the factory for repairs. Robinson says the TTC will probably be looking to make its next order of streetcars in 2020. When asked whether it would still consider Bombardier after all the problems.
I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future. I can't comment on that now. I'm not going to really comment on that because I think that's really up to the province of Ontario and the federal government to address.
Mayor John Tory says he is also looking to the other two levels of government.
I'm hopeful that aside from the sort of some war of words that happens elsewhere, that what we'll all focus on together is we need transit vehicles. People in Thunder Bay need jobs. The other two governments have money to help us buy the transit vehicles, and surely we can all sit down together and see if we can work out something.
But whether that will be with Bombardier remains to be seen.
We can't just do business with them because we feel badly about the workers. We care about that deeply, but we have to make sure they're going to deliver a quality product on time and on budget to us. but assuming you can get through.
Now, it's not just the TTC, Chris. Metrolinx has also experienced its share of delays with Bombardier. Just this past February, Bombardier failed to deliver on time its first batch of light rail vehicles. Now, Uniform, meanwhile, says that it will be pushing the government to sign new contracts with Bombardier. Send back to you.
Kelda, thanks. The impending loss of those 550 jobs fired up politicians today at the Premier's conference in Saskatchewan. Doug Ford blasted the federal government, saying infrastructure money could save those jobs. But the feds say the Conservative Premier has yet to come up with a workable transit plan and that there's no one to blame but himself. At the Premier's gathering in Saskatoon for us, here's David Cochrane.
The premiers all seem to be getting along at their meetings in Saskatoon, but it's a different story when it comes to Ottawa.
We aren't here to play politics like the federal government.
Another skirmish between Ontario's Doug Ford and the Trudeau government, this time over who is to blame for job losses at Bombardier.
And my message to the federal government is, we put our money where our mouth is. Where is their money? They have done absolutely nothing to support these people in Thunder Bay.
To hear the Premier of Ontario misleading Ontarians and, in fact, employees, 550 employees of Thunder Bay with such empty words.
It's a political blame game with hundreds of workers stuck in the middle. Ford says Ottawa has been slow to back his big money transit plan that would see the Thunder Bay plant building even more streetcars for Toronto.
What I heard from the president of Bombardier, if the federal government can get this deal signed, the $28.5 billion that we've been waiting for, they can rehire people.
But Ottawa says there's no deal to sign. Ford has made an announcement but hasn't sent a viable plan, even though there's federal money ready to flow.
There's been no application received at the federal government for concrete details about what they propose to do in terms of moving forward on transit in Toronto. There's been nothing but chaos, confusion, and paralyzation, quite frankly.
It's not surprising to see the federal Liberals attacking Doug Ford, as Ford's popularity has tanked in just his first year in office, and that unpopularity is dragging down the federal Conservatives, especially in key ridings in Ontario that could settle the upcoming federal election, which is just 103 days away. David Cochrane, CBC News, Saskatoon.
It's one of the oldest and most popular landmarks in Toronto. St. Lawrence Market has stood for more than 100 years. Now the city is in the final stages of renovating the area. Coming up, why that is cause for concern for some of the market's vendors.
I am more concerned with the individual merchants as how the store looks like. To renovate the market, to bring more money and to make more money for the city, I have an issue with that.
It'd be a nice night to grab something from the market and then go for a walk. What do you think, Colette?
I think that's a perfect idea, Chris.
Let's do that after the show.
All right.
All right.
I'd be happy to join you. It is that kind of a night, and take advantage of it, because overnight and then tomorrow we get into some wet conditions. It'll be somewhat short-lived, meaning if you look at the long range, it's kind of one day only event, but still something that we'll have to deal with. So tonight's your evening. A look at the temperatures today and the way they progress through the day. So this is a snapshot at 6 a.m. and what the readings were at. Basically some mid-teens, a little cooler in Oshawa with the winds coming off the lake. By lunchtime, mid to upper 20s, and then as of 6 p.m., have a look at some of the readings. The temperature actually dropped back down for Toronto, but for Windsor, 32, for Ottawa, 28, and kind of bookended along the 401 there with some of that heat. Ottawa's up closer to 30 a little earlier, so there are some heat warnings southwestern Ontario and for the nation's capital because of the humidex values being near 40. And not just that, and not just that the daytime highs are up there towards 30 or low 30s, but the overnight lows, you just don't get much relief. You're looking at even the overnight lows being in the low 20s. These are the current readings. A little shift, as I say, in what we're seeing in terms of the wind direction brought the temperature down a little bit for Toronto, but Oshawa 28, Markham there at 30, 30 for Hamilton and Kitchener as well. Then we have a look at the dew points, and I want to point this out because, again, they've been creeping up through the week. Much more comfortable yesterday, today starting to get a little muggier. When we start to see these dew points, not just in the high teens, but more importantly, when we start to get towards the 20s, that's when things get a little more significant. Muggy when you're up to 21. on, and it gets more oppressive as those dew points reach towards the mid-20s. So seeing that mugginess back in the air, and it sticks with us into tomorrow. Out ahead of this system, a few isolated showers possible through the overnight tonight. Then it starts to get a little better organized. So early in the day tomorrow could be a few showers towards the morning. It's more so towards the afternoon. The main line comes through, and so into the early afternoon could have some heavier downpours in there, and then eventually by evening we'll see any little bit left behind kind of tapering off and moving out. Overnight tonight, increase in clouds, slim chance of showers, 29, feeling like 37 tomorrow. And yes, we are going to be needing the umbrellas, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
A warning now from police over what's called distraction thefts. It comes after a nun was robbed near Birchmount and Steeles in Markham. York police releasing this video from June 18th. You want to keep an eye on that black SUV. Police say the suspects waved the nun over, asking her for a prayer for a dying relative. When they were done, they placed a chain around her neck and a ring on her finger as a thank you. That's when they allegedly took the nun's gold necklace. Police have released a description of two suspects. One is a woman in her 30s with a heavy build and dirty blonde hair. She was wearing a flowered skirt or shirt. Police describe the other suspect as male with tan skin, a black buzz cut, and a black beard. Next to a major drug bust, Toronto police say they've broken up a group of drug traffickers operating in the GTA and Windsor. Police say they began their investigation weeks ago, and late last month they executed a number of search warrants. They seized 6 loaded handguns, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and drugs, including 24 kilos of powdered cocaine, fentanyl, and crack.
These drugs would have found their way to the streets of Toronto and the GTA and Windsor. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And these individuals would have made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars out of the drugs that you see before you.
In fact, police estimate the drugs would have fetched more than $5 million on the street. They also seized more than $500,000 in cash. 6 people from Toronto and Windsor are now facing a long list of charges, but investigators are still searching for 2 other suspects. Well, it's official. Kawhi Leonard is on the move to LA, but not for as long as many people thought. Details on his deal with the Clippers coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
CBC Toronto News is working to get answers for you. If you have a problem or a story idea, let us know. Our award-winning team of investigative reporters are here to help you get results. Contact us at torontotips@cbc.ca.
Fans are remembering actor Rip Torn. He died yesterday at his home in Connecticut. He was 88 years old. Torn started acting in the 1950s and played hundreds of film and TV roles over the decades. He was best known as Artie on The Larry Sanders Show and Agent Zed from Men in Black. If you were maybe hoping it was all a bad dream and Kawhi Leonard was still with the Toronto Raptors, here's a wake-up call for you. And just a warning for Raptors fans, this one might be tough to watch.
I wanted to make history here, and that's all I did.
Breaking news, Kawhi has chosen the Clippers.
Well, there it is. The LA Clippers making the official announcement today. They've signed Kawhi Leonard to a 3-year deal worth $103 million. The Clippers have not disclosed the terms, but reports suggest that it's a 2-year deal, guaranteed, and Leonard can opt out of a 3rd year. That would allow Leonard to become a free agent again in 2021 if he wanted to. A victory parade wound through the streets of Manhattan today for the U.S. women's soccer team. Crowds turned out in the thousands to celebrate the team's return from France and a record 4th World Cup championship, a tournament that attracted record TV audiences. Star player Megan Rapinoe and her teammates were joined in the procession by politicians, including New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. He joined their calls for equal pay for female and male players. Months spent in space have left one of Canada's most famous astronauts with a deep sense of gratitude. David Saint-Jacques has been home for 2 weeks, and today he talked about his renewed love for life on Earth and his newfound desire to live more simply. Alison Northcott now with the out of this world perspective.
David Saint-Jacques was welcomed back to the Canadian Space Agency by friends and colleagues. He was greeted with applause and cheers. He was in space for 204 days, and today he spoke a little bit more about that experience. He talked about what it's like to come back to Earth. He also took questions from some kids who were in the audience, and he talked about the research and science experiments that he was doing, focusing mostly on medical science, and how he and his fellow astronauts were often the subjects of that research. He says back on Earth, he still feels a bit like a guinea pig because those scientific tests and experiments continue. But he also talked about the physical and emotional side of his experience. He says it's taken his body some time to adjust to the feeling of gravity again back on Earth. And now he says it's actually hard to believe that his experience in space actually happened. And he now has a new appreciation for life on Earth.
I think life on station was unusual, but very simple. One place, 3 people, very few different tasks, an amazing view, but always the same. So you can look at it differently. You can say, wow, life on Earth is so much more extraordinary, so much more varied, so much more complicated, right? So that has stuck with me, how coming back to Earth makes you appreciate the things you used to take for granted. You know, yesterday, my 3-year-old daughter was pointing at me how beautiful it is to see leaves blow in the wind looking overhead at a tree. I said, yeah, you're right. That's amazingly beautiful.
Next, he'll head back to Houston to reintegrate into NASA's astronaut corps while he continues to digest his experience. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Mattel is boldly going where no toy maker has gone before, launching the world's first female astronaut Barbie.
Samantha Copy, and we'd like to continue with the post-EVA procedure as written.
Samantha Cristoforetti is Europe's only female astronaut. She spent a remarkable 200 days in space. Now, before that, she flew to fame as the first female fighter pilot in the Italian Air Force. She hopes the look-alike doll inspires young women to follow in her footsteps. But those are big shoes to fill. She speaks 6 languages and has an engineering degree, so it remains a bit of a long shot whether anyone will be able to match that skill set.
People don't come with horses and buggies anymore. The farmers are not the farmers like they used to be, so things have changed. So obviously, so must we.
Yeah, a lot has changed since horse and buggies, but changes are certainly coming to St. Lawrence Market, and that has some vendors worried about their future. We'll bring you that story next.
This is Metro Morning, and I'm Matt Galloway. Commuter chaos and gridlock traffic. If you're in a car right now, you might be in the midst of it. So why are Toronto roads at a standstill?
Flexible work hours are one way to get around the traffic and transit problems in the city, but is there an actual solution to get Toronto moving?
From Matt in the morning to Dwight in the evening, CBC is Toronto.
It's been years in the making, and this week, construction finally began at what used to be the north building of the St. Lawrence Market. While the work begins on the outside, new plans are being hatched for inside the south building across the street. As Daniel Clark explains, it's leaving some vendors worrying about their future.
It's been called the world's best food market. Fresh seafood, meats, and produce in a building that once served as Toronto's City Hall and jail. The St. Lawrence Market is getting a renovation. The city is in the final planning stages, and some current vendors are worried they'll be forced out.
From our perspective, we feel a little bit hesitant and concerned, of course, because there are interests.
Nancy Monona owns an organic shop in the lower level of the market and says businesses have been preparing to renegotiate their leases with the help of their tenant association. She fears the upcoming renovations will cause rents to rise.
But to renovate the market, to bring more money and to make more money for the city, I have an issue with that.
We haven't yet determined what the next steps are with the project and whether rent will be impacted or not.
Are you planning on offering any sort of temporary space or anything to the current tenants while the renovation is taking place?
Again, that would be part of our determination once we figure out if the project's going to move forward and what the next steps are, developing what the plan for tenants will be.
Some vendors say the market needs to evolve.
People don't come with horses and buggies anymore. The farmers are not the farmers like they used to be, so things have changed, so obviously so must we.
The reno could take years, and so far, the tenants are in the dark on timelines. As for the patrons,
what we can do is get an elevator that works well. That's because us old buggers can't get around it without it.
But there's so much changing. There's so little left of Toronto proper. Yeah, you know, it's nothing over 100 years old.
that building there was Toronto's old City Hall. It's been standing since 1845. Now, the city's proposal for downstairs is meant to create a space that is as open and inviting to visitors as this one. Daniel Clark, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, if you're hoping to get to the market or anywhere else downtown for the next 3 days, heads up, some major road closures are in place for the Honda Indy this weekend. Southbound Strawn Avenue is already closed from Fleet Street to Lakeshore, and starting at 8 tonight, Lakeshore will shut down from Strawn Avenue to British Columbia Drive, and all roads will reopen at 11 p.m. on Sunday. Okay, so let me get this straight, Colette. Tonight is going to be kind of nice, and then tomorrow we have some really, really muggy temperatures. Was that what you were saying?
Well, it's not only that it's going to be muggy. Yes, you're right about that. It's that we're going to add into that some precipitation. So tonight's your night to be on a patio and kind of enjoy it. Overnight tonight, a few isolated showers are possible, and then more significant stuff is coming through tomorrow. So that's what I want you to take away from this, to be prepared for that tomorrow. Umbrella, whatever it is you need. And also just a slight chance we could have some of those storms develop to severe limits, not necessarily in the GTA, but the possibility is there. Probably stronger stuff to the east of us, but always want to be paying attention with that. Heat warnings, yeah, there are some, not for the GTA, but not too far away. Scattered precipitation with some of that thunder tomorrow, and the weekend outlook looking primarily good. I say that because I'll show you in the 5-day forecast where we might get into a little more precipitation coming back as we head into the weekend. These are the current temperatures, though. Had a bit of a cool down for Toronto after going up to 29 degrees. Humidex, factor that in, and boy, some of the heat you're feeling in Hamilton and St. Catharines, pretty significant also for Windsor, and that is why that's where we're looking at the heat warning in the Windsor area, Chatham, and then over towards the nation's capital through the Ottawa Valley as well, that heat warning in place. Showing you just what's kind of developing as this next system is coming in. So you can see this somewhat weak line, although it's starting to fill in a little bit. That's tracking our direction, giving a few showers certainly into cottage country. So a few isolated showers that potential there into the overnight hours for us. It does weaken a little bit. Then another kind of line starts to develop. That's into tomorrow morning. So the chance of a few isolated showers tomorrow morning. What happens as we get towards late morning and into the afternoon tomorrow is more of that main line coming through, developing ahead of the cold front. As it does, it will fill in and we get into some heavier downpours. That's where we get into some thunderstorm activity moving through too. So kind of in that early to mid-afternoon corridor. Behind that, little bit of instability, but primarily it will be a clearing trend that we'll get into, and it's a nice setup then. Even for late Thursday evening, I think things will be looking good, and certainly for Friday. In terms of the amounts, kind of around that 10 millimeters towards Toronto, but that risk in a heavy downpour locally, there could be a few areas with some concerns for flooding. Just if we get some of those heavier downpours, you'll see higher amounts. Overnight tonight, a look at the temperatures with that increase in cloudiness we'll be seeing. Tomorrow, your temperatures, again, kind of upper 20s, but feeling like we're towards those upper 30s. So that humidex, something to watch out for, as Chris was saying, certainly muggy into Thursday. Friday feels a little more comfortable. But then the temperature goes up. Not only that, humidity starts to go up into the weekend. And I want to mention that it is Saturday afternoon where I see that chance of getting a few scattered showers coming back in. Otherwise, Chris, the weekend is really looking quite nice.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks, Colette.
No problem.
Some breaking news now from Oakville. A 79-year-old woman is dead. Her granddaughter is in hospital after they were pulled from a backyard pool. It happened just this afternoon. The two were found face down in the pool, and police tried to revive the grandmother, but she died at the scene. Her 4-year-old granddaughter regained consciousness and was rushed to the hospital. She is now in critical condition, and police say the circumstances surrounding the incident are not suspicious. And this is video captured by residents of New Orleans, where parts of the French Quarter have been flooding due to heavy rain. You can see cars submerged and unable to move. Water is also now entering people's homes and public buildings. As much as 18 centimeters of rain fell in New Orleans over a 3-hour period this morning. A hurricane watch has been issued for portions of the southern coast of Louisiana. The U.S. National Weather Service says the storm is most likely to make landfall west of New Orleans on Saturday. Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien is out of hospital after falling ill in Hong Kong. This is a Twitter post from Canada's Consul General showing Chrétien today at a trade conference. He was supposed to speak there yesterday. His spokesperson says the 85-year-old former Prime Minister will be treated for a kidney stone when he returns to Canada. Ottawa City Councillors have voted in favor of approving a controversial and some say monstrous modern addition to the Chateau Laurier Hotel. The hotel's Vancouver-based owner had threatened legal action if the mayor and council revoked their permit for expansion of the 110-year-old heritage property.
I don't think we should spend tax dollars on a fight our legal advisors are indicating we won't win.
The opulent Gothic revival architecture of the Chateau Laurier Hotel was what led to its designation as a National Historic Site. It was built on the banks of the Ottawa River beginning in 1908, and it was issued a permit last year for an addition at the rear of the building. But critics at City Hall fought to rescind the permit, calling the proposed design for the addition an eyesore. They say it destroys the original hotel's beauty and mars the view of Parliament Hill. Ottawa City Council also voted in favor of further discussion on the matter tomorrow. Canadians throw away millions of tons of plastic each year. While a small portion of that trash gets recycled, a lot of perfectly reusable items end up in landfills or they just litter the planet and its oceans. But a prolific Ontario inventor has made a machine to tackle the problem. He says he's found an easy way to take plastic waste and give it new life. Diane Buckner tells us more.
We have taken and chopped up waste plastic. So this is 100% chopped up pieces of plastic.
Ever wonder what happens to kids who win the Canada-wide science fair?
And that chopped up plastic with our special extruder can actually make it into good molten product again.
In Wayne Conrad's case, that victory at age 13 has led to a career as a little-known but prolific inventor.
See, plastic isn't the problem. In fact, our problem is our view of plastic. We think plastic is garbage.
His latest innovation, a small, energy-efficient machine that melts down plastic to turn it into siding, furniture, and other products. There are already machines that do that, but they cost millions and are the size of a tractor trailer.
What it's going to do is enable entrepreneurs, small and large, and big companies to say, hey, my municipal waste stream is a source of raw materials.
This isn't Conrad's first crack at a big idea. How many patents do you have?
500 or 600 granted patents now.
500 or 600?
Yeah.
One is used in the water filtration system on the International Space Station. Others are related to the big-selling Shark Ninja line of vacuum cleaners. Nowadays, Conrad is focusing his ingenuity on the problem of plastic. But can his invention make a difference? The plastic specialist at Environmental Defense isn't convinced.
That kind of innovation is useful to reduce the problem, but it doesn't reduce the plastic, so at source.
Conrad argues less plastic will need to be made if we get more use from what already exists. His staff of 50 are already turning plastic waste into roofing material for use in Haiti. Still, Conrad has invested in a new manufacturing facility.
I can turn this into a good product, like the paving stones here, and it lasts for 20 to 25 years. And then at the end, I can take it back, grind it up, add some things to it, and use it again for another 25 years. That is actually the perfect example.
He has secrets in his workshop he won't show off just yet, but almost all are aimed at a more sustainable future. He keeps this up, his Science Fair trophy could be one of a collection of prizes. Diane Buckner, CBC News, Hampton, Ontario.
I was a project manager in big bank in France, and the life is short and the world is very big.
So she and her family picked up their lives and crossed the Atlantic for a global adventure. Now they're in Canada, and more on how their journey is going is coming up next. I was surprised when I saw that they were on wrestling mats instead of cots.
At the nearly 80-degree drop.
Why not? Why do you think that is? It's hard to imagine it can get any better than that. The deputy head of the Canadian Armed Forces has submitted his resignation under a cloud of controversy. In a statement, Lieutenant General Paul Winnick said he was leaving to spend more time with his family. But media sources are reporting that Winnick linked his departure to the legal saga involving his predecessor, Vice Admiral Mark Norman. It is alleged that Winnick was upset that the chief of the defense staff planned to replace him with Norman after a breach of trust charge against Norman was dropped. Now to the other big resignation of the day. The British ambassador to the United States, Kim Derrick, is gone. This comes after his confidential criticisms of the U.S. president were leaked. Those, of course, prompted Donald Trump to respond by calling him wacky and a pompous fool. Chris O'Neill Yates has more on the diplomatic dispute.
Ambassador Kim Derrick tendered an early resignation today after a harrowing few days, all caused when his emails were leaked to a British tabloid. In a statement, Derrick said, "Although my posting is not due to end until the end of this year, I believe in the current circumstances, the reasonable course is to allow the appointment of a new ambassador." Frozen out by Donald Trump, who said he would no longer work with him. Then there were the scathing tweets. The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the US is not someone we are thrilled with. A very stupid guy. He should speak to his country and Prime Minister May about their failed Brexit negotiation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Even after Trump's pointed jab, Britain's Theresa May gave Derrick her full backing today in the House of Commons.
Good government depends on public servants being able to give full and frank advice. I want all our public servants to have the confidence to be able to do that. And I hope the House will reflect on the importance of defending our values and principles, particularly when they are under pressure.
Excuse me, gentlemen. In last night's leaders' debate, Conservative frontrunner Boris Johnson refused to say if he would allow the embattled ambassador to continue in his Washington post if he became Prime Minister. However, today he praised Derrick.
He was a superb diplomat, and I worked with him for many years, and I think that whoever leaked his diptels really has done a grave disservice to our civil servants, to people who give impartial advice to ministers, and I hope that whoever did it is run down, caught and eviscerated, quite frankly.
The hunt is on for the leaker, with no stone being left unturned. Officials confirm they're already talking with police about how to find whomever leaked those papers. Chris O'Neill Yates, CBC News, London.
The deadly risks for those who report the news is the focus of an international conference in London. Last year was the most dangerous on record for journalists, with at least 99 killed. And as Derek Stoffel explains, there was lots of talk about one infamous case.
The foreign affairs ministers of some 60 nations have gathered here in London to discuss global press freedom. There are some 1,500 journalists, people advocating for press freedom, and academics as well. And one of the largest topics of discussion is the brutal killing last October of the Washington Post correspondent Jamal Khashoggi. He died inside the Saudi embassy in Istanbul.
When Jamal Khashoggi was tortured to death and dismembered by Saudi Arabian officials in Istanbul, world leaders responded with little more than a collective shrug.
A lot of people are focusing on the upcoming G20 meeting that's going to take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, there's a lot of people at this conference who say that because of the human rights record, the record on press freedom, the Saudis shouldn't be hosting that meeting. I put that question to Chrystia Freeland, the Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister, asking her whether Canada would pressure other nations to move this important global conference, and she essentially said no.
We do need to have places where we can meet and talk, even with those countries that are acting in ways that are 100% opposed to our values.
Well, openness and transparency are some of the key things that are being discussed here at this conference. We as journalists have had a difficult time figuring out if there are actually any Saudi representatives here. Derek Stoffel, CBC News, London.
All right, as we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX was up just over 18 points. The Dow Jones was also up by 76, and the Canadian dollar traded for an average of 76.38 cents US. We'll be right back. The idea of taking a trip around the world is so daunting, most of us wouldn't know where to start. But a French family took that travel bug and made it happen. They sold everything, converted a fire truck into a trailer, and headed off. Here's how they did it.
I'm Marco, and with my family, we are coming from Europe, from France, from Paris, and we try to make around the world with our truck, the Gazelle. I'm 47 and I worked a lot. I had my company. I didn't spend much time with my family.
On est à peu près quoi, à 200 km là d'Ottawa?
Même pas. I was a project manager in big bank in France, and the life is short and the world is very big. We wanted to stay a long time with our family and with our kids. So it's important to travel in the open mind and open the mind of the children.
I miss my friends, of course, and my family and my home, but I have learning about travel and I have discovered a culture who nobody can watch. I see things who the other young don't see. So I think I'm very lucky.
J'ai appris à me connaître. Je me suis découvert et j'ai appris ce que je n'aurais pas appris dans ma vie d'avant.
The landscape in Canada are amazing. People are very friendly. All time people come to the truck and ask for but the truck is huge and what's your where do you travel and with kids, and it it's difficult to travel with kids. And I said, no, it's not difficult. It's possible when you are organized and when kids want to travel too, because it's a project, a family project.
The most important is to live and not to dream your life. Just simply live it. And that's what I want to show to my children. Enjoy life. Whatever you want to do, just do it. And not wait until whatever happens. It's right now.
They will be called upon to locate missing people, track down fleeing suspects, and search for evidence in a variety of locations and environments.
No, he's not talking about these police officers. He's talking about these ones. Peel just got 2 new recruits today, and we'll take you to the doggy grad right after the break. Peel police have a warning for the bad guys. 2 of their finest are now officially on the job.
They will bravely serve and protect the members of our service and our community with unwavering loyalty and courage. Kylo and Stark, I hereby pronounce you badge-carrying members of the Peel Regional Police Service. Go forth and make us proud.
Love it. Kylo and Stark are both 2-year-old Belgian shepherds. They got their badges today in a graduation ceremony. Now, for 16 intense weeks, they were put through the paces training in general service work, and that would include missing persons searches and evidence tracking.
A canine officer, I would say, is probably one of the best jobs. Like I said, I get to take my partner home with me. My job is to play with the dog. We play catch, and then we play hide and seek professionally.
And it really is a full-time commitment as well. These dog handlers not only are with them at work, but they also take them home and constantly train the animals. Time to show us your GTA, and thanks to Calvin for this beautiful shot of the Cathedral of the Transfiguration in Markham. Oh, it looks beautiful. And you can get your photos into us by posting them on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag CBCYourGTA, and we'll air some of them on the show.
Great angle for that shot.
It was beautiful.
Nice.
I love the sky in the background, just stunning.
And I play hide and seek with my dog, but not quite to that level.
No. Those dogs looked pretty skilled for that kind of stuff.
That's pretty exciting for them. That's very cool. I hope you'll be excited about the forecast. You know, it is nice this evening. Enjoy it. Things start to change a little bit. Overnight tonight, we could see a few isolated showers, 20 for the low. And then tomorrow, we are going to see some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Probably the heaviest, Chris, would be into the early afternoon.
All right. Well, at least tonight is nice.
Yes. Enjoy.
And that's our show for tonight. Have a great night.
We're going for a walk, right?
Yeah, that's good.